Welcome to Off the Top, episode 6. AI gives me a random phrase. I read the phrase and just see where my mind goes. The phrase for episode 6 is the scarecrow refused to testify. The scarecrow did not want to get the crows in trouble. Well, it wasn't so much he didn't want to get the crows in trouble, he didn't want to admit he was friends with the crows. And so the plan was to get rid of the crows. Scarecrow didn't want to do that. Scarecrow stayed away from that, didn't want to go to court. The crows destroyed the crop, but it's truly the Scarecrow's fault. He feels guilty, blaming it on the crows because they would have left had he made them. And it's raining outside right now, and it's raining hard, and I like that. Finally, my God, it's been so dry and so hot. And I've had to have the air conditioner. I have this little air conditioner that sits by the desk, and it's so loud. And it has to be right next to me in order for me to feel cool. But even then, it gets like 80 degrees inside, and 80 degrees outside isn't too bad. But 80 degrees inside, that's just like annoying. I like it around 72, maybe even a little bit cooler. But I don't like to be inside with the light shining on me and the PC putting out all this heat. Boom, boom, boom. And a tiny little air conditioner that's so loud it just grates on my nerves, you know? It's just like, ugh, it's like someone poking you in the chest. You ever do that when you were a kid? I remember my friend Scott used to pin me down on the ground, put his legs on my arms. I was stuck, and he'd get his knuckle, and he would just boom, 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 to the point where I didn't think I could stand it anymore. I don't know if that was worse or getting spanked as a child was worse. Both were kind of, well, getting spanked as a child was way worse, is way more humiliating. But as far as just being like, oh my God, will this stop? I don't think I can take this anymore. That's the same. However, it really got me good at like not showing pain. I was an expert at that. I remember my uncle, he used to go to all of his nieces and nephews. He would like, when someone grabs your leg right by the knee, right above the knee, those nerves there, and they squeeze really hard, or right here. He was a police officer, so he knew all those pressure points. And he'd do that to my cousin. He'd freak out. My sister freaks out. Everyone's freaking out. And he would do it to me. And no matter how it felt, I would just look at him like, what are you doing? Is this supposed to somehow bother me? And then he'd get bored and feel stupid. So as long as I could maintain for just, let's say, 30 seconds, he'd give up and then he would feel stupid. Inside, I'm like, oh shit. But here's the thing, when you're like not showing pain or don't want it to take over, once you give in, it's a nightmare. Oh, you can't give in. I got really good at it. It's like whenever I'd get like, if I was going to go to the lake for the weekend, I'd go to like a salon every now and then to get all the hair on my body waxed off. Because as you can see, I'm pretty hairy. And I just liked to go to the beach without being hairy. Everything about not being hairy is better. Putting on sunscreen's easier. Everything's better, you know? And so I would go get waxed, one little thing at a time, whoosh, ripping all that hair out. And as long as I was cool, it wasn't too bad. But if I would start flinching and all that, it turned into a nightmare. So deal with it, because when you don't, oh, it's way, way worse. I haven't done that for a long time. I remember I bought one of those, what are they called? I can't remember. But it's a little thing about this big and it looks like a razor. And then it turns with all these little teeth in there, and the teeth are designed to grab the hair and pull it out. So you have to push it against you like your chest, and it rips the hair out. Oh my God, that was so hard to make myself do that. It was so brutal, but I would make myself do it. I would just like zone out. You see that with skaters a lot. They'll dislocate their shoulder or they'll hurt themselves really bad. And then they find that place, that space in their mind where they can deal with it. I've always wanted to be really good at that. I remember, that picture? Have you ever seen that picture of that monk? I think it was around the Vietnam War, where he's sitting in the middle of the street. He dumps a gallon of gasoline all over himself, lights himself on fire. I find that incredibly fascinating. He didn't flinch. I was like, holy shit, how's that even possible? He didn't even flinch. He lights himself on fire and is just sitting there burning up. Doesn't even flinch. It really got me thinking. I was like, what am I doing? Acting like these feelings are so important and I must go along with them. And oh my God, the anxiety. It's like, why? Why don't I just say no to that? I never really did that. I would feel something and I would assume that it means something. Oh, I'm feeling a lot of anxiety and dread. It must mean something. No, it didn't. And if this monk, I know physical pain and mental pain are different. I definitely know that. However, if this monk can take a gallon of gasoline, soak himself with it, light himself on fire, and not flinch, I think I could start dealing with some anxiety and just saying, guys, get the hell out of here. I didn't ask for you. I didn't ask for this feeling of dread. I didn't ask for all the fake rules that give me this anxiety. And if the anxiety doesn't affect me, it goes away. So I'm trying to remind myself of that every day. You know, if I keep everything relaxed, not in some weird mystical way. I'm so sick of mysticism, Jesus Christ. I'm so tired of missing. All I've known my whole life is there's a God, there's a spirit guides, there's universal intelligence, there's all these things, and it really messed with my head because I'm looking for something else to help me, and prayer and looking for universal intelligence to attract all these great things to me didn't work. It really hurt my life. I'm not saying people who believe that are having a bad life. Maybe they know something I didn't. Maybe they aren't in as bad of a spot as I was in. I'm not saying it doesn't help some people, and I'm not saying you should never believe this kind of thing. I have it in my head as a possibility. There's a possibility there is something out there we don't understand, and that if we could tap into it, it really could help us in life. I personally have not found it. All I found was doing things that didn't get anything done. And what sucked about it is it felt like I was getting things done. You know, if you're praying, you feel like you're accomplishing something. If you're attracting that sports car through the law of attraction, visualizing, it feels as though you're accomplishing something. No, like I said, maybe for some people it worked. Maybe they thought it worked, just a coincidence. But for me, I had to get rid of all of it. I'm not here to say there's a God, there's not a God, or there's anything else like that. I'm just here to say, in my personal experience of spending 56 freaking years trying to find some answers through it, never came. Those answers never came, but it definitely distracted me from living my life and doing the simple things I needed to do to give myself a good life. It really distracted me and it really hurt my life, but I'm not against it. There are people who believe in God and they'll fight to the death to defend that. And then there are people who are very angry atheists. I don't want either one. I lived in the extreme side of it. I saw nothing but, ugh. and I don't want to be bitter against it either. I just don't want that. I understand how that gets stuck in people's head when they're raised with it and it's really drilled into their head, especially if it's like a cult like environment and it was a really extreme situation in which the preacher's telling them to beat your kid so that you break their will so they have no choice but to conform. God, you would think you wouldn't have to beat your child to conform to something so beautiful, right? You have a loving God that's going to send you to heaven. This loving God can guide you through life. If you get sick, this loving God can heal you. So, where does the beating your child to force them to believe come into play with that? I don't think you have to force anyone to believe in something like that if it's actually working. Hey, did you know you can walk on water? Really? Shit, show me how. That's what happens if it really happens. You don't have to sell it to anybody. You don't have to go door to door. Hey, do you know Jesus? Not if it's actually working. You have to do the opposite. You have to hide. Imagine if someone truly could heal people the way they tell you you can in church. You don't you don't have to talk about it. You're definitely not defending it. You don't have to defend something you can prove on a regular basis. If you go to the children's hospital and empty the children's hospital out, heal every single sick child in that hospital, you don't have to defend it. I'm watching it. I'm seeing it. A lot of the times when you're defending something, you're kind of proving it's not right, that it doesn't work. Because Why would you have to defend being enlightened? If it's happening to everybody, well, they're too busy feeling bliss to defend it. Why would you have to defend that the law of attraction works? You're too busy living in your mansions and driving your sports cars to defend it. Why would you have to defend Christianity if you could walk on water and heal people and you're being guided through life in a way that's unbelievable? You don't have to defend that. You only have to defend it. If it's not working, thank you for watching episode 6. I will see you for episode 7.